Welcome to Hood Politics. In this episode, I will be discussing the story of Kevin Orellana. The facts of the case are as follows. On Wednesday, April 24th, 2013, at around 4 p.m., an 18-year-old man named Kevin Orellana was playing handball with some friends at Cleveland High School in the neighborhood of Reseda. A few moments later, two teenagers, known around campus as the Rockwood brothers, approached him and asked him where he was from. Kevin told them that he didn't gangbang. The older brother asked him again and punched him in the face. Kevin and the man started fighting, and according to witnesses, Kevin was winning. As the two fought, the younger brother pulled out a pocket knife. He approached Kevin from behind and stabbed him multiple times. Kevin stumbled a few feet and collapsed. The attacker then dropped the knife, but the older brother picked it up, wiped it off, and threw it. Someone screamed, "He's been stabbed," and Kevin's friends rushed to his aid. The school's football team was practicing nearby and witnessed the attack. They chased the brothers into the school's parking lot, where they got into a waiting minivan and fled the scene. One of the team's coaches ran to Kevin and used the shirt to apply pressure to his wounds in an effort to stop the bleeding. 911 was called, and police and paramedics arrived at the scene. They found drops of blood all over the asphalt. They then found Kevin lying on the ground. His clothes were soaked in blood, and paramedics cut them off to assess his wounds. Kevin had been stabbed 10 times in his head, neck, and torso. He was transported to Northridge Hospital, where doctors attempted to help him, but sadly, there was nothing they could do, and at 5:01 p.m., Kevin Orellana was pronounced dead. Kevin attended Cleveland High School the previous year, but had transferred to West Valley Occupational Center and was in the process of getting his high school diploma. He and his friends still met up at Cleveland High after the school day ended to play handball. Kevin also enjoyed playing soccer and was nicknamed the Flea for his small stature and speed. He had dreams of becoming a rapper, but he planned to enroll in Cal State University Northridge and major in kinesiology just in case things didn't work out. Kevin's family felt that he may have been targeted because of his shaved head and tattoos, but they insisted he wasn't a gang member, and although he may have looked tough, he was really caring and would give someone the shirt off his back if they needed it. Detectives arrived at the scene and began their investigation. They saw a line of witnesses that stayed at the scene to speak with them, which took them aback because the stabbing was clearly gang-related, and most witnesses refused to cooperate in gang cases. A witness said the man who fought Kevin had a large LA Dodgers logo tattooed on the right side of his head. He told detectives that he saw him on campus often and didn't know his name, but knew he was a member of the Rockwood gang. The witness then pulled out his phone and opened Instagram. He went to the suspect's profile and showed investigators a photo of the man holding a bottle of vodka. Detectives learned the suspect was a 19-year-old Rockwood member named Michael Carpio, also known as Lil Loco. After speaking to other witnesses, they learned the person that stabbed Kevin was Michael's younger brother and fellow Rockwood member, 16-year-old Anthony Carpio, also known as Baby Loco. Rockwood formed in the 1970s in the Westlake neighborhood, just west of downtown LA. It was originally a football club, and its members would play against teams from other neighborhoods. During the 1980s, the group transitioned from football club to gang, leading to wars with nearby gangs such as MS-13 and 18th Street. As the years went on, Rockwood continued to expand its membership and territory, ultimately becoming one of the most notorious gangs in LA. The Carpio family had previously lived in Westlake, but after Michael and Anthony started gangbanging and getting into trouble, the family moved 15 miles north to Panorama City in an effort to distance themselves from the gang and to keep the brothers out of trouble. But the move did little to slow them down, and Michael and Anthony took the gang lifestyle with them. Investigators later learned the driver of the minivan was a 19-year-old woman named Michelle Pineda. She was Michael's girlfriend. They then learned that Michael had previously attended Cleveland High and pulled his school records to find his address. 8 hours after the murder, just after midnight on April 25th, officers descended on an apartment in Panorama City and arrested Michael, Anthony, and Michelle. A few hours later, the school day began at Cleveland High. The mood around campus was somber. Additional counselors were on site just in case any students needed someone to talk to. There was also an increased police presence around campus to prevent any further violence. One of Kevin's former teachers, Damian Goodman, said Kevin was very popular and well liked, and he believes that's the reason so many students chose to cooperate with investigators.
I remember Kevin as an enthusiastic person with a dynamic personality.
Man, I remember Kevin as being a happy person, never being sad, always being optimistic, always looking at the bright side of everything.
He was always there for you whenever you needed him. He would always give you like good advice. Ever needed somebody to talk to, he's like the right guy to go to. He was like big brother to everyone, especially to me.
I remember him as a good friend, funny, chill. He would always be there for everybody. When you're sad, he would come to you and do some stupid ass shit for him to make you laugh.
I remember Kevin being always happy. Every time I saw him, he was always had this big grin on his face. And he's always just had this presence that he was something different.
Kevin, I remember Kevin, he'd always like to give a hand, to the people who needed help. And he was always smiling and happy to somebody who needed advice. I remember one time we were in class and he's real poetic, man. He was a real smart kid. Always trying to stay out of trouble.
Felt comforting. Like you've never had a dull moment when you're around him.
He got along with everybody. Just like how he would be out there playing handball every day. We would be out there in the backs playing basketball. And then he'll be like, hey, dog, I'm going to play you in basketball one day. And I was like, all right, cool. I don't know if you're going to win or not. And then he's all like, then you can play me in handball. And so we went over there one day, tried to play him in handball and lost like 5-0. Couldn't even hit 1 point for some reason.
Goodman said he spoke to Kevin 2 weeks before his death. They joked about their time as teacher and student and discussed Kevin's plans for the future. Meanwhile, at the police station, detectives interviewed Michael about the murder. He admitted to being a member of Rockwood and said everyone calls him and Anthony the Rockwood brothers. When detectives asked him why he hit Kevin, he said Kevin was mad dogging him, so he approached him to see what was up. Michael said he didn't know Anthony had a knife and he never would have let him come along if he knew he had a weapon. They asked Michael if Anthony killed Kevin and he said he didn't know. Michael said Anthony had been to juvenile camp and he wasn't the same after he got out. He was a totally different person. Investigators then asked to see Michael's tattoos. One was the letters P and M, which stands for Piedra Madera and means rockwood in Spanish. He also had the numbers 7 and 9 tattooed, which corresponds to the letters R and W on a telephone keypad. Investigators then interviewed Anthony. Initially, he denied knowing anything about the stabbing and said he was nowhere near the school that day. But after investigators told him that multiple witnesses placed him at the scene, he admitted to being at the school but denied being involved in the fight. Detectives asked Anthony if he stabbed Kevin. He shook his head back and forth and shrugged his shoulders. They asked him what does that mean, and he replied, I don't know. Investigators then interviewed Michelle. She said she took Michael and Anthony to the school to pick up their brother George. She watched them get out the van and walk into the school. A few minutes later, they came running back to the van, telling her to drive. Michael told her Anthony stabbed someone in the neck, and he wiped the knife down and threw it before they ran. Michelle says she then drove the brothers to Santa Monica, where she picked up their mother and took them to a nearby mall. Michael and Anthony bought new clothes and changed in the backseat of the van. Investigators received a call from one of the Carpio's family friends saying that Michael had butt dialed him shortly after the stabbing and he had the suspect's conversation saved on his voicemail. Detectives visited the man and listened to the message. They heard Michael yelling at Anthony for stabbing Kevin and then heard him say he picked up the knife and wiped it down before they ran. They also heard Michelle telling the brothers to get down in the back seat so no one could see them. Michael and Anthony were then each formally charged with murder for the death of Kevin Orellana, as well as gang enhancement charges. Anthony was also charged with using a deadly weapon and committing a felony while being a minor. Michelle was charged with being an accessory after the fact. Michael's bail was set at $1.4 million, Anthony's bail was set at $1 million, and Michelle's bail was set at $540,000. All three of them pled not guilty. In October of 2014, Michelle pled no contest to accessory after the fact. She was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Michael and Anthony's trial began in late 2014. The prosecutor was a man named Scott Marcus. Marcus painted the brothers as careless gang members with no regard for human life. He said Michael initiated the confrontation with Kevin and punched him in the face for no reason, and when Kevin tried to defend himself, Anthony pulled a knife and stabbed him to death. Michael and Anthony each had their own defense attorneys during the trial. Michael's attorney was a man named Stephen Meister. Meister told the court that Michael should have never been charged with murder because he didn't play a role in the actual stabbing, and he didn't even know Anthony had a knife. He pointed out how the voicemail showed that Michael was angry at Anthony for stabbing Kevin. Marcus said Michael is just as responsible for the stabbing as Anthony because he initiated the confrontation and was an active participant in the fight. He then watched Anthony stab Kevin multiple times, and afterwards, he picked up the knife, wiped it off, got rid of it, and fled the scene with Anthony. Marcus said Michael aided and abetted Anthony during the murder, and that makes him just as responsible. Anthony's defense attorney was a man named Aaron Lobb. Lobb didn't agree with the murder charge and told the court that the stabbing was manslaughter at best because there's no proof that Anthony intended to kill Kevin. Marcus said Anthony stabbed Kevin 10 times in his head, neck, and torso, which are all vital areas. He said the stabbing wasn't an accident and there was obvious malice intent behind the attack. The prosecution's gang expert was an LAPD officer named David Brown. Brown spent a lot of time in the Westlake neighborhood and was very familiar with Rockwood. He told the court that the gang's primary activities include vandalism, assault, robbery, drug sales, and murder. Brown said he knew Michael and Anthony were from Rockwood based on field identification cards where they each admitted to being members of the gang. He also told the court about a notebook that was seized from the apartment during their arrest. The notebook had West Los Rockwood written on it and a list of the gang's rivals crossed out. Brown spoke about Michael's gang tattoos and said he was wearing a Pittsburgh Pirates hat on the day of the murder, which is a hat known to be worn by Rockwood members. Brown said he believes the murder was committed in benefit of Rockwood because Michael and Anthony approached Kevin and asked him where he was from, which is a well-known gang challenge that often results in violence. He said the murder would increase Rockwood's status within the gang world because it shows Rockwood members will confront anyone they believe is an enemy and have no problem committing violence. Ultimately, Michael and Anthony were each found guilty of murder for the death of Kevin Orellana, as well as gang enhancement charges. Anthony was also found guilty of using a deadly weapon. On January 15, 2015, Michael Carpio was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison, and Anthony Carpio was sentenced to 16 years to life in prison.
2 gang members were sentenced today for killing a teenager on a high school campus in the Valley. CBS 2's Randy Page shows us what happened in the Van Nuys courtroom.
Anthony and Michael Carpio sat expressionless in court today while Judge Martin Herskovitz prepared to sentence them after they were found guilty of second-degree murder. Their victim, 18-year-old Kevin Orellana, was stabbed to death on April 24, 2013, when he was confronted by the 2 gang members on the grounds of Cleveland High School in Reseda. Before sentence was pronounced, prosecutor Scott Marcus read an impact statement written by the victim's family, while Judge Herskovitz watched photos provided by Orellana's parents.
As a parent, we plan to dance at their wedding, celebrate a promotion, look forward to possible grandchildren. The last thought we would ever have is that we will have to plan their funeral.
Judge Herskovitz said Kevin Orellana was playing handball at the high school when the 2 gang members accosted him.
That's all he was doing.
The judge then sentenced the 2 brothers to 16 years to life. The Carpio brothers will not be eligible for parole until the year 2028, and by then, both of them will be in their early 30s. In Van Nuys, Randy Page, CBS 2 News.
A few months after the trial, in May of 2015, the LA Daily News spoke to Kevin's family about the trial and how they've been coping with his death. The family said they made it a point to keep Kevin's bedroom exactly how he left it. His bed is tightly made, his favorite baseball caps are lined up in a drawer, and a bunch of stickers that he collected over the years are plastered on the walls. The family placed a gold-dipped rose from his funeral, along with his Browns baby shoes, inside of a glass case. A few feet away sat an indigo urn containing Kevin's ashes. The family said after Kevin's death, they received an outpouring of support from the community. They made 100 memorial t-shirts, which quickly sold out. They ordered another 50 shirts, which also sold out, so they ordered another 50. Kevin's father, Pedro, said he was a great son and he misses him. He bought Kevin a car that he planned to give him after graduation, and he also planned to take him on a trip to El Salvador to visit his family and to show him his roots. Pedro said the family was not only having a hard time grieving, but they were also having a hard time expressing their feelings. He stated, "As a family, we don't talk about how we feel. In every private corner, we cry, we get emotional. People say, as time passes, it'll get better, but it doesn't. It gets worse, because when everything is quiet and empty, we break down." In 2016, California voters passed Proposition 57. The bill focuses on inmate rehabilitation, and a major part of the bill focuses on juvenile offenders. It allows for offenders who committed crimes as juveniles but were tried as adults to have their cases sent to juvenile court. In 2021, the court reconsidered Anthony's case and decided he should have been tried as a juvenile rather than an adult. In the juvenile system, an offender can only remain in custody until they turn 25 years old, and since Anthony was already 25 at the time of the decision, he was immediately released. Kevin's family was outraged. They blamed LA's then district attorney, George Gascon, and his lenient criminal justice policies for Anthony's release. During Gascon's term, he refused to try juveniles as adults, even for the most heinous crimes, and he ordered prosecutors not to challenge cases being sent from adult court to juvenile court, such as Anthony's. Kevin's family began speaking out against Gascon and started supporting his rival, Nathan Hawkman, during their 2024 race for district attorney. Kevin's brother, Guillermo, appeared in a political ad where he spoke out against Gascon and criticized his policies.
Hi, my name is Guillermo Orellana, and on April 24th, 2013, my brother Kevin Orellana was brutally murdered. He was attacked and stabbed 10 times at his high school in front of many of his friends, and our lives were just shattered. We believed in justice when his attackers were convicted of second-degree murder. But then in 2022, one of them was released after serving only 8 years of a 15 to life sentence due to George Gascon's policies. What kind of justice is that? Gascon's refusal to prosecute violent juveniles in adult court means that these criminals can walk free after just a few years. This is a betrayal to all victims and their families. Just recently, we had to endure a parole hearing without a prosecutor to stand with us. Just another reason why Gascon must go. My family, my brother's friends, who have since graduated, earned degrees, started careers, and are now almost in their 30s, all live with the pain and the loss, and we cannot allow others to suffer the same fate. Gascon's policies are dangerous and hurtful, and we need a district attorney who will truly stand for justice. And that's why my family and I are standing with Nathan Hawkman for district attorney. Gascon must go. Return to sanity, return to safety, return to justice. Vote for Nathan Hawkman for district attorney, an independent for all.
Kevin Orellana's memory lives on through his family and friends. He is remembered as a good-hearted person with a bright spirit and infectious personality. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe.